Welcome in the Darco Interview. Darco is a painter who lives and walks in France. Coming from the graffiti street art movement, he is a part of the first generation of graffiti artists in Europe.
Hi there. I'm fine, yourself?
So first, thank you for accepting this interview and to be here today.
You're very welcome.
Could you introduce yourself for the people who doesn't know you?
All right, my name is Darco. I'm a German-born, French-raised painter, a graffiti artist, graffiti writer. I started in the 80s to write my name in the streets and on the train tracks during that time, and I quickly started even to paint on canvases and on stuff like that. I did my first commission works in the 80s, still mid-80s, and the first exhibitions in the beginning of the 90s. And I've never stopped since. So yeah, that's basically it.
So you are a street artist. For you, what is a street art?
That's a very good question, because street art is that's a complicated one, because I paint with basically spray paint. That is my main technique. So basically, I'm a graffiti writer because I write my name, and that is one part of graffiti in general. But graffiti could be writing sentences, it could be drawing symbols, it could be painting images or portraits or something. And it also can be stencils, which is a technique on its own. And me personally, I like the graffiti writing part, because basically you take letters and symbols and you totally transform them into abstract paintings, basically. And there's total freedom, because you use symbols, you use letters and writing, you use images, and different techniques on different backgrounds, and that's what I like, this total freedom. And I tried out, when I started in the 80s, I tried out stencils, I tried out painting, drawing pictures with markers, for example, or even paintbrush, but I like the spray paint best, because it's total freedom. It's a very efficient technique. It's very fast, very easy to use once you get the feel of the whole thing. You have to work a lot, of course, to acquire the dexterity to do clear thin lines, for example, or fadings, or whatever you want to do. And so that needs a lot of practice. But once you get this, it's a very, very, very interesting tool, and for me, it's the new paintbrush, basically, and that's why I like to use that. So what I do is one part of this graffiti culture, and now moving on to street art. Street art is a label, basically, the art world gave to all kinds of art in the street, but it can be painting, it can be knitting, it can be anything. But you have to be aware of the fact that all these different kinds of expressions are very different. So, for example, people who do stencils are not necessarily linked to people who do paintings or illustration works, or wall painting, or graffiti writing. Like every part of graffiti in general is a branch, a genre of its own. And so street art basically just links all these different modern paint or expressions, art forms together in the art world. And so you can find you can find stencil work, you can find pop art, you can find collages, you can find drawings, illustrations, paintings, and writing. But an important thing to know is it is because of writing, writing meaning graffiti writing, that existed through 30, 40 years and influenced such a big amount of different kind of expressions, may they be visual or architecture or fashion or I don't know, like a lot of things have been influenced by this art form, and that is why the art world finally got re-interested in graffiti and the other forms of graffiti, and labeled it street art, if that makes sense.
And do you have some example here to show?
Yeah, I made a book a few years ago, which I don't have on me, but this is a catalog of an exhibition I did. So in that catalog you can see drawings, for example, because before you paint on walls or canvases, even this was made on canvas, for example, you draw, and so pencils and markers and fine liners are a very used technique as well. This, for example, are different commissions I've done. This is on the Champs-Élysées, on the Champs-Élysées in Paris. This is in Burj Khalifa in Dubai, and this was for Clarence. And all these are canvases, and there's basically three different approaches. First, it's calligraphy, which people call tags. Tags are just signatures, basically. And so this calligraphy, I use this calligraphy on canvases, sometimes on walls, on different backgrounds and with different techniques, and I mix them up. Then you can find later on, if I go through them quickly, different pieces. It's called a throw up because it's basically a letter, and there is it is drawn, so it's not written anymore. It is drawn, but it's still simple. It's still very simple, and that is sort of like an in-betweener between the calligraphy and the typography. So this is very simple, and then you can find mixtures between both, where you can find calligraphy and typography, which basically are tags and pieces, which in French you call graphes, but in English you call them pieces. Came from masterpieces, chef-d'œuvre, whatever. So this is mixing them up on canvas still, and then you can find canvases that are done straight with spray paint. This is a wall I did in Italy. So there you can find like the whole thing is about using letters and transforming them. So it's not just there to write your name or your label or whatever you call it. It is there to play with dynamics, with flow, with rhythm of the whole forms and the dynamics of the lines and the colors, and that is important. It's not important if nobody can read it. So yeah, this is like a lot of canvas studio work, and yeah, and then there's a few. These are very big canvases. And then in the end, at the end of this catalog, you can still find some walls I've done. Yeah, for example, this stuff. And that was my studio. I'm sorry I don't have the book on me, because the book, there you can see a lot of works like this. Like big works. This is very big for that time. This has been done in 95 and it's 30 meters high, and during that time it was the highest graffiti in the world, so it was in the Guinness Book of Records at that time. It's in Hamburg, and people ask me to do that because I've been working on this, which is a movie called IP5, which came out in 91 or 2 or something, and this was the video. I worked on the movie and on the video release, and did all the images for that and performances and whatever. And this has been seen by people in Germany, and they came to France and asked me basically to think about this project. And this was the first project in Hamburg, and now they have over 50 big walls. This obviously has been beaten several times now, but it opened Hamburg to basically do a project of murals in Hamburg, and now there's over 50 murals, and you can visit them and walk around and through the whole city, and yeah, so that was a start of a bigger project in Hamburg, and this basically was the set, like one set of the film, which was still there years later and has been renovated. And during that, the architects asked me to redo parts of the existing painting and to complete it on the part that wasn't painted at all. So this is still there. It's in Paris, close to Place de la République, and you can't see it from the street. But if you go into other buildings on the other side or something, you can actually look into the place and you can see it. Yeah. So sometimes I do big paintings like that, and sometimes I do small paintings like these ones, which still are like 130 meters to 1 meter, but compared to a bigger painting, they're pretty small.
So I have some other question for you. Do you travel around the world with your work?
I've been traveling quite a fair bit. When I started, I discovered other people who were doing the same thing in France first and in Paris. That took a while, but very soonish, we created a group of people. We were 4 at the start. This group is called FBI, and we've been meeting other people in other countries as well. First of all in Europe, of course, but and we hooked up and we did big paintings and conceptual pieces, and so we got together a lot, and we moved a lot, and we traveled a lot, and so I came around a fair bit. Obviously this is not possible anymore during these times for now, but yeah, I've been coming around a fair bit and yeah, so in Europe and elsewhere.
How do you manage to express your creativity over time? To have new creativity, to make some different arts?
Well, when you're like, everything can inspire you. If you read a new book, if you look at a film, or if you go to some place and check out new paintings or old paintings, or go to a museum or anything, or walk through the woods, anything can inspire you, and so there's always new ideas, although it is still and only you pick a word, basically your name, always, and you just write it again and again and again. And I've been doing this for like 35 years now, and I'm still not fed up, and I'm still, I didn't do the whole thing, and I just find new things every day. So everything can inspire you. You still have to be open-minded it might seem a bit narrow-minded to just write your name for ages, and but I don't think so, because you concentrate on one thing. You're not like everywhere. You concentrate on one thing and try to do it and do it again and do it better every time, and so you just try to look at something and you maybe this can help you to do something better than you did before, and so I don't know, I just keep going basically.
What do you think about the fact that sometimes the street artists
Well, I've been doing this from the start, let's say, and although graffiti for me is something humanity has always been doing, even the cave paintings for me are exactly the same thing, and they even use the same technique. They sprayed paint on the surface most of the time. They were spitting it, but they sprayed it. At the start, I've been trying to paint, of course, in my room, in people's garage or stuff like that, and then in some, let's say, underground or undercover places, just to practice, and then in the streets, because in the 80s, especially stencils and graffiti in general, more punk rock related graffiti, let's say, was very fashionable in Paris especially, but everywhere, I guess, because you can speak of Nagli, for example, in Switzerland, or Hamilton in New York, and other people as well. Keith Haring, for example, who is a pop artist, but he met and he wanted to meet a lot of graffiti writers and took them into galleries, and he was very interested in what was going on in the street. And a lot of even contemporary artists or modern artists were very interested in what was happening in the streets, and they included all this into their work sometimes. So I think it's a natural thing, and the streets is just basically where people live, and the streets belong to everybody, and the streets are used to put images on there. Might it be architectural monuments or publicity. So you have all these images, and humanity has been going through cinema and comics, for example, and all the publicity and all that, and everybody wanted to maybe exist in the streets and to do that. So for me it was normal, because nobody got asked if you want to have this publicity of this and that brand somewhere, or if you want to have this building or this bus stop in front of your window or not. So people don't have the habit to ask people, maybe, and at the end of the day it's paint. So for me, for example, it wasn't a problem to actually offer paint to people, go out at night, hide myself, because I knew it was illegal. But for me, I was offering paintings, and I was trying to make some place that was ugly and grey into a beautiful place. And these places most of the time were around some street corner, or behind some bus stop, or on the train tracks, and yeah, and these places are not very fun, and so I just wanted to make them look beautiful, and that's all I wanted. And although I knew it was illegal, for me it wasn't a big deal. It was painting. Like there's so many other things to do, bad things to do, and so many other delinquency or crimes to be done, and to me this wasn't very how do you say it, harsh or very grave. I don't know how to say. Don't know. Very grave.
So, what are the curious? You show me some picture of your arms. What is the craziest?
Craziest
things. You show me some part of your picture. What are the craziest things you did because of your job?
Well, there's a few craziest things, let's say, because you restart over and over again, and you do something else every time. Sometimes it might be very crazy because from an illegal perspective, you paint a place which is like impossible to paint, or a place where you always wanted to paint and you just did it there. And for me, it doesn't matter if it's illegal or legal. It is different because the conditions are not the same. It's easier to paint at daytime with nice weather and good conditions, so that's obviously easier than to paint at night in the cold and without getting any sleep and with the fear that people might catch you. Like for me, that's not like the adrenaline for me wasn't the kick. The kick was actually to see it, criticize it, like, oh, I could have done this better, and maybe next time I will do that better, and to rework the whole thing and make it better again. And so that is one aspect. And the other craziest thing you might have done, it could have been, for example, this high wall I've done in Hamburg. That at that time was the craziest thing because it was a commission from a city. It was the highest graffiti, it was the whole building. So that was pretty crazy at that time. But after that, I've done other things that has been crazy as well. Maybe not so big, but maybe sometimes I painted on the legally. I was commissioned by the SNCF, which is the French railway, to do walls at the Gare du Nord. And that was pretty crazy because first they were chasing me, and now they're giving me commissions, and so that was, for me, was pretty crazy in a good sense. And other things like maybe painting for some brands, some important brands, getting commissions, doing shows, sell your artwork. That's pretty crazy in general.
For the people, what are your most famous works?
My most famous works, I don't know, because for me, like, everything is important and everything is actually part of something bigger, and hopefully it's not finished. So I can't really tell, but maybe some pieces are pretty known because they've been reproduced a lot in books or shown a lot here and there. Maybe this big wall was a good one. The things in Gare du Nord was pretty big. Some other works that were, for example, the pieces I've done for Peugeot on the Champs-Élysées, that was pretty known because it's the Champs-Élysées and everybody saw it, and other pieces as well. Even pieces that have been done in Australia or South Africa or something, they're pretty known because either for that time it was rare to see pieces from that period in that area, or it was just something that has been seen by a lot of people, and a lot of people actually tell me, "Oh, I've seen that," and I had a picture of that piece in my room when I was small, and stuff like that. So that happened. So I don't know really. it's all linked together, and it's all basically just one unfinished piece of cake.
You know Banksy,
Not personally.
but
Well,
is this his work?
hey, yeah, I know what he's doing. I actually participated I participated at a show in Hamburg still, which was a big show called Urban Discipline, where he exhibited as well. So I must have bumped into him at some place. Yeah, I know his work.
What do you think about their actions? Like
About what he does, what do I think about? I think it's cool. I think it's really cool because it's I like stencils, but it's, for me, it's a technique more than you could actually draw something. It doesn't matter if it's done with stencils or not. That is one thing. So like, but what I think it's cool is that his work have been opening doors for a lot of people, and the whole newish street art movement, and so that is very cool, and a lot of people can relate to his work because it's very recognizable. It's very easy to understand in a good way, so a lot of people can relate to it. Well, a lot of people can relate to his work because he's been everywhere. He's been doing a good promotion. Everybody has seen it. Easy to recognize, easy to understand in a good sense, and it opened a lot of doors for a lot of people and for all the other forms of graffiti. And he knows graffiti writing, which is a good thing. So hey, I can relate to that and I think it's good that somebody opened all these doors, and it's important.
So you show me your book with some of your arts. How do you keep visual trace of your all your arts?
Well, obviously I can't keep them. I can keep drawings, maybe some paintings on canvases and smaller works, but it's not made for that, and I've learned to paint in the street and to leave it there. So I'm used to lose the work in a certain sense, and all I can basically keep are images, maybe photos or film. That's all I basically keep or can keep of my work, and because obviously the wall paintings and the murals, they stay somewhere, and the canvases or other work or cars or whatever you paint is they are made to go at some point. So I keep some of it, but basically it's just photos and film.
Okay. You think today that people recognize the street art is recognized by the society?
Well, yes and no. Graffiti and street art are recognized by the public and society in general, but it is still considered to be a subculture in a certain sense, and I regret a bit that when you see an exhibition, you see, although it's recognized as can be exhibited somewhere, you will always still find a difference between art and this underground subculture street art thing, which is still under-labeled. So it is recognized. It has been recognized in the 80s because all the American graffiti writers came to Europe to do shows and commissions, and this has been exported all around the world. Then this kind of market collapsed a bit, and now it broke out again. So which is a good thing, because this is a new culture, a new art form. The paintbrush changed, but it is a new art form, and this opened doors to other people like stencil artists or other graffiti artists in other graffiti branches, and modern artists and pop artists and contemporary artists, meaning still living artists. They now can exhibit and do shows and live, basically, which is a good thing. But this might collapse again and come again later, and so yeah, I regret a bit that is still under-labeled being a subculture, and there's culture and then there's a subculture, and I would like to see shows that show some basic recognized artists with street artists. Like I don't like the street artist thing. I just, either you're artist, painter, or not. It doesn't really matter if you have a studio background or a street background. Like obviously, me personally, I'm more interested into in this street background and into the how you actually work with symbols and letters than somebody who's painting a flower or that. But that's me personally, and other people are different. But I regret that there's still a difference, and it is still under categorized at some point, at some stage, and yeah, that's basically it.
Today, with COVID-19, do you still creative, or it's more difficult to express your creativity and all the things around?
Well, COVID-19 obviously influenced a lot of the cultural world in general, but that's very different from place to place. It's very different in France compared to Germany, compared to England, compared to the States, compared to Canada or Australia. So you can, obviously you're still creative, you still want to do things, you still feel the need to create paintings, to draw, to think about things, do new canvases, do new projects or whatever. But sometimes it's hard to do the projects because you're not allowed to gather people together, and so if you want to do a performance like paint live, performing in front of people, that's difficult. If you have a show somewhere, sometimes you are not allowed to let people in. So you have a show, you have pieces up somewhere, but you're not allowed to actually show them to people. And in some other places, you are allowed to show them to a certain degree, to a certain amount of people at the same time. But that's still reducing the potential of the work. So parts are very hard to do the projects. Sometimes it's hard to do them, but obviously you're still in the need. That's your life. I mean, I have to draw, think about colors and combinations and stuff. So that is basically what I think about, and you're always in that process, obviously. But then the official part, the shows are harder sometimes, and as long as there's public involved, it's harder, obviously.
Je vais écouter un petit peu, voir si j'ai pas eu des problèmes de son.
Genre oui, il n'y a pas de son, dommage.